videos and protect your wealth. Remember to subscribe, like, and share these videos. In tonight's video, we're going to talk a lot about Bitcoin, at least in the beginning. We're going to change the normal presentation that I do every night just because it's the main thing and it looks like it's affecting sentiment across the street. Let's get into tonight's video. Hey everyone, what a last 24 hours for me. I made a comment on a X post and all of a sudden 3.8 million people now know who Bob Kendall is. I don't know a lot of folks on Twitter there anyway. So I want to start off by talking about Bitcoin. I've been talking about it for a while. Obviously, I cover it every night I'm on, and I cover it in my Substack every night. So what we'll do then is we'll start to cover what I believe is going on here. There's a number that I talked about a long time ago on Bitcoin, which was 58,000. We actually printed in this new session here 59,930, and we're trading right now. We're trading at the 60. Let's see, we're 64,533. So we're bouncing a bit off of the low, and there's just a lot of folks out there that are hurting on this sell-off. And I think I gained like 6,000 Twitter users in the last 24 hours. So obviously a lot of folks interested in Bitcoin. I'm not a Bitcoin influencer. I'm not that guy. I'm a quant. I'm a chart guy. My analysis knows very little about the whole Bitcoin infrastructure, other than I've been covering it for multiple years from a technical standpoint. So that's my perspective. And what I also am have been a guy who's been in Wall Street for a very long time, and have run all kinds of different operations, from hedge desks, trading on the actual floor as a floor trader, arbitrager. I've done a little bit of everything, including running about 275 billion in the markets from our portfolio management system over a couple of decades. So I have a lot of experience. So just so I know, I see some blues on there. We'll see if how many folks show up that maybe are new, want to know me better. We'll figure that out. So let's a couple of things that I want to bring up before, and just kind of wrap out my typical macro view of what's going on in the markets. Just saw the S&P kind of rally. As you know, I'm not looking up at the sky. I have my trading monitors up above here. And, you know, we're seeing a bit of a bounce off the lows, even on the futures, on the E-minis. So everything's trying to bounce. And I mentioned that I think the sentiment is being affected here from the standpoint of Bitcoin was so, and crypto in general, but everything was so focused in. You know, we got the semiconductors. We talked about last night that the S&P was already starting to expand out the downside risk, and we saw that today. And, you know, I just want to put a chart up while I'm talking to you folks about this. In fact, I'll just put it on screen for you so you can see. But we saw that. I was talking about that mess from the trendless mess, but we got some new Fibonacci targets on the downside, and we've already hit, I believe, 2 of those already. Let me just, and I'll go through more detail, but we saw that expansion of downside risk. This doesn't look like the beginnings of a major risk-off environment, but we're going to, as you know, I do all this analysis live, nothing other than the fact that I'm involved in the markets and I have a context of where we are. We'll do some live analysis together, and we'll go through the S&P on a weekly basis, start to look and pull back out a little bit to see if there's some more systemic risk going on here. And it certainly is a possibility that we start to get a big risk off moment. But as last night's Substack, I talked about, mark your calendars for February 11th. It looks to me everything's going to try to bottom there. Even the algos, you'll see here in a minute, have updated a bit on Bitcoin, and I will do my best to, I think maybe we'll run a couple of the fact sheets that are going on. So I want to put this out here real quick before we get into the flow of the night where the room's still filling up. One of the things I've got all mapped out, I told you I'm working on these scripts that I'm going to give out to you that will do the analysis of like the silver when we change regimes from a trending regime and go into this parabolic curve regime, that this will actually help to do that. And just mentioning that silver report I put out, I think I have, I do have some things I can show you on that as well. And this is what's going to happen here, is right here. This is what you're going to get in the script. There's going to be a whole bunch of metrics. I'm changing the view of this, but it's actually, you're just going to plug in a couple screenshots, and this sheet's going to run out, and it's going to tell you where exhaustion points are on any symbol that you have. Because when you go into those parabolic curves, you get into, it's sort of like, I compared it like the old biplane where it goes vertical, and when it finally doesn't have enough power to go on anymore, it just stalls and the plane falls out of the air. And I told you on the whole silver situation that was likely it's going to happen. Last night we discussed silver being on a right shoulder and go down. 3 hours after I said that on a live stream last night, it actually happened. And it happened in the Asian, almost transitioning into the London session last night. All of a sudden, silver dropped like 10%, like out of nowhere. So, but the point of what I want to discuss tonight is going to be this type of a scenario where all the markets, the sentiment gets connected, and a whole lot of stuff is bleeding from one side to the other. And, I have been working on a platform for us that we're going to have at least one stream next week that will focus more on, we'll do a quick macro view, literally, and then we'll go from there. And I will go through most of what I normally do, so which go through the WAVETECH database. So just so you know, all of these scripts, there's going to be, I've already hired somebody, they're working on it's a membership, it's going to be free, you'll be able to get it, go in there and get these scripts. Anybody that has the indicators will be able to use them. And that's, you'll go to kendallreport.com/indicators24 to find out more. I'll have that description in the, when I repost that for the replay of this one, this stream. So we'll go through there, so you get that. But all these scripts are going to be available. Some for the parabola environment, normal trending. I'm working on the scripts so you can just load them up, because then you're not going to have to. It will help you learn how to use my indicator stack. So it will bring in a lot of power into you, and there's thousands of you that already have that. So I will give you the URL. You'll go to the membership. You'll sign up, and you can get all these scripts. They'll be for free. And then we also are completing, so you can get the fact sheets. And I'm going to run a fact sheet here in just a minute on Bitcoin. So I'm not sure how long this stream is going to be. So I warned, if you saw my post on Twitter, is bring your popcorn. So we're going to go through a number of things, because I want to bring in the context. We may be at one of those moments in time, and that's why I told you to mark your calendars for that February 11th, which that's going to be an interesting point. There's all the analysis, all the algos and everything are right there screaming this, that there's a big pivot coming. Is it a downward pivot? Is it a bottom? Depends on what we do between right now. This broadcast is for Friday. This is overnight Friday, and we're going to be right into next week, Monday, Tuesday, and I believe Wednesday is the 11th, if I'm right. So anyway, let's do this. Let's go to Bitcoin. I just want to touch on this because I think, and I mentioned this last night. The sheets that came out last night were screaming if we could hold, I think it was 68, that we had a good chance at an upward reversal. Well, we blew through everything. Like I said, it's been already down to 59 tonight. So let's go. And I always use a BitSnap exchange, but this is, you can see a couple things that I want to lay out. And especially if you're new on the channel, this is part of the WAVETECH stack. There's this a grid around it predicting where the low prices are. We went just below STX yesterday. A lot of you already know this. You've been on the channel. That was a buy signal on Bitcoin exceeding. Let me blow this up so we can see this just a touch better. When we exceeded and closed under this orange line, that is what's called an STX buy signal. Pretty accurate, 1 to 2 days, sideways to up. The red dots here are the algos telling us where the close is. It looks like it wants to move sideways into this 10-period moving average. And I saw already a couple posts, and mainly because of this huge thread I got in. Like I said, there's it's still working. I'm still getting badges popping up on my phone, but my comment got 3.8 million views. I had a buddy that had a viral moment, and he told me it was pretty insane what I was watching overnight. But what's happening here is, this is not over. And when you see people already posting, that's it, that's the low. It's the same guys that have said that 14 times in the last 14 days. So what has to happen, those of you who've been around this channel, you know that, matter of fact, if you are new here, would you just give me a thumbs up or something? I just want to see if there's any newbies around. But the bottom line is, what we're getting here is the big spike down, and now we have to work. We got that volatility expansion. So it's going to take at least 4 to 6 plus days to get that volatility to normalize before we're going to be able to make any call on a low. And it could, because of the steep drop that we had in the last 3 sessions, we'll call it, this thing could easily rebound all the way back to 70,000 plus. So that's not out of expectations here. And as if some of you have seen the post I made, what I was talking about is price discovery and what's going on. You guys have been around here. I've been screaming, you brought the wrong people into the crypto market, and now you've compromised it. You've now made it just like every other derivative market. And there was a comment that I made on one of the responses to hundreds that probably I've been involved with, is that this was no mistake. It's not illegal. Wall Street didn't take over. All the Bitcoin bros, you invited these people into your party, into your house, and you thought it was good, and they were not friendly, and they know how to do arbitrage and how to use derivatives to control markets. I'm going to tell you right now, there's going to be a monster rally in here. So and the problem is that a lot of the LTHs, long-term holders, think they are doing something for price by not selling right now. They're not even part of it. Okay. because you're not buying and selling, you're not part of the price discovery. So this is going to take what we've just experienced. This has been another breakdown from a technical standpoint, but also from an internal cash flow and how derivatives are flowing is also broken when you get this, because not all the dividend or derivative players made money here. Whenever you see steep drops like this, this is vaporizing money. It's not like one side got rich and the other guys got poor. Everybody got poor for the most part. A few people are win. I used to always say when I was on the trading floor, especially in Chicago Board of Trade, they had this big long elevator that came down off the floor down to the main floor in the board. And you could just stand there and see what kind of day everybody had. You know, you could see the guys that were high-fiving and happy were going to the bar, and you could see the other guy, I don't know where he was going, but he wasn't maybe he's going to the bar in the back corner. But you could see big days have a way of vaporizing capital, and that's just part of what goes on, and it's, yeah, and you find out what side you're on. So anyway, but this is going to take some time. Let me come back up to the algo. So if you're new here, these dotted lines are projections. There's a theory that I talk a lot about here that is angle of attack. So it's not the position of the average and the price relative to it. It's the angle of attack. So the steeper the angle up or down, the higher probability that the markets will hold above or below that value. Right now, this is insane numbers. We're not at a parabolic down. We're at a minus. Let me make sure let me get the, we're minus 3.15. So we are parabolic on the downside. So we are now within that parabola regime, which means there's a whole different set of rules. And so we could see this market could rebound easily back to 67, 68 from here. So that was kind of the breakdown point, 68, printed down to 59. Maybe this is the blow off that we're seeing here, and we'll start to see some of these things. And I'll talk about the parabolas when we go through the metals. So I'm looking at right now, 17 minutes in. Well, I'm still going to try to keep this to an hour stream. But when we see this type of configuration, this is just telling you the rubber band stretched, it's going to come back, and then there's going to be that, what I call, in this case, an echo sell-off, just like what, and I'll be able to illustrate this pattern when we go through silver, and I think I'll do silver next. That will be probably be able to tie this together. Once we get through that, these two markets, we'll use silver and Bitcoin just because they've both been parabolic, one down, one up. But just to show the reaction and the structure that you're likely to see out of this. And those that have been around this channel a long time know that that's all I talk about is structure. Structure is everything to me. I'm a quant. I've been running quantitative analysis literally since the early 1990s. A lot of people think that AI just came around in the last few years. It's not. AI's been around since the 60s. The neural nets weren't very good, which is the machine learning, but the expert systems, which are the if-then. So our software for the money management side, those are expert systems. I built those way back in the 90s. So they have an inference engine, which is a set of rules, and then there's values, and it says if this, then that, and you get to a tree, and if it says if this is true, go here. Everybody's seen these. If this is true, go here. If not, go this on this part of the tree. So you build this big inference tree, and we have like one that's got 600 variables in it. Okay, so this was the way that you built a AI system, expert system, through a knowledge base. So you have an inference engine, which is your knowledge base, and then you use the market to trigger based off of values and these indicators I built back in the mid 80s, and they've been well tested. We didn't have the algos until about 3 years ago when we added the machine language, but just so you know the setup. So let's do that. So you kind of know the parameters. We're going to see a rebound. Listen, the guys that I talked about, if you saw that thread and what's been going on and my responses to folks on that thread, is that the same people that are kind of pounding this thing down are going to want to get out. So they're going to be buyers at some stage. There's going to be a monster short covering. There's going to be a huge rally. I told everybody I wasn't trying. My comments on wasn't like Bitcoin's going to zero. I'm not one of those guys. This is a very valid market. Used to be a 2.2 trillion. I think it's 1.8 or less now. So it's got chopped pretty bad. I don't even know what the value is. But if the but there's going to be a monster rally. So I'm not sitting here going, hey guys, it's over, go home, sell everything. That I didn't say that on the thread. I'm not saying it now. I follow Bitcoin every day in my Substack, and I follow it every time I'm online, like right now. So just know I'm very involved in the price action. Don't know a dang thing about all the stuff. I saw some guy would held the electricity cost. Who cares? It lost your butt trying to own this stuff. So when you're coming up with excuses why you still own it, you're in a bad trade. I'm just a trader and a quant. I don't care about any of the ideology. And I think I've said this before. Markets don't trade on ideology. They trade on probabilities. And all of the futures guys and the Wall Street guys, they got monster math machines behind everything they're doing, and they know right where it goes. I could tell you stories about the firm I was with, and we ran about a $500 million hedge fund in 1990. That was actually a lot of money then. Still a lot of money. But we had like 450, almost $500 million in the fund. But the point here is that, so let's go ahead in the silver and let's start putting together let's put this parabolic. So this is really crazy showing you this, especially because I'm flashing back to last night, and we were looking at gold versus silver, and silver had a much weaker profile, and you can see that I was talking about it should come back to the right shoulder, and we were going to find out something. And what we were going to find out is if it was going to hold the lows that we made actually on Monday, right? Well, the answer, we already know that answer now. It was no. And you can see it's trying to set up a pattern. This line right here, this dotted green line that I'm zooming in on, that's $62. And we got down to 63.90. I told you if it takes out 62, then we'll see the 200-day, which is this orange line down here. So far we're holding. We're about trying to go positive here on this pattern. And if we look at the algos, there's still some downward pressure here. So even if we bounce a little bit, we're going to probably, this is the magic number. This is Thursday the 12th. Wednesday, Thursday the 12th is where, just flashing back on what I've been telling you, is exactly where this thing is likely to at least attempt some kind of material bottom. Right now, there's still tons of downward pressure across the board. Every algo, everything is down. I'm just trying to find something on another monitor here to see if I can get to that, and I'm going to bring it up. Okay. So I'm just going to bring this up. This is on the front end. I just want to blow up this graph here and bring that into so everybody can see this. So this is the basic theory. The basic theory is that we have different regimes that come out, and they're all identifiable through the angle of attack, or where the angle which the moving averages underneath it or above it are moving, tell you a lot about probability. So there's a whole probability map. This is just a sketch of the theory that's within the models that I run, and the WAVETECH indicator stack operates underneath this. And so I'm not going to go and educate everybody, just give you a quick 30,000 view. So when you get parabolic, this scale over here, I was just showing you on the downside, we're 3.5 on Bitcoin. So it's just inverse. This is just showing you the scale on the upside. When you get there, then you recognize that you're in this parabola regime, which has a whole set of different rules. And if you go to Twitter, you should be able to find a special report I did on silver on the 26th, which basically had the setup, not only the setup, but the pricing zone. So whenever a market gets into this level, this is in the case of Bitcoin right now, it's down. What you're going to get, you get to an exhaustion point. So it's the inverse on the downside, but on the upward regime, it's that airplane that runs out of power. Even you can go watch the Blue Angels. They go vertical, and then they'll just back off, and the plane just falls straight down. The whole angle of attack thing is a aviation theory of when markets stall and all that, but there's different regimes, and that's what's mapped out here. So just so you folks know what you're looking at there. So when we see silver, it got up when it was here. This was 275, 320. So this was in that upper range of where things are likely to hit that exhaustion phase. And if you stay one day too many, so anybody who's short Bitcoin, they're possibly experiencing this right now, is that you stay one day too many, gravity takes, it's easier to understand on the downside, but on the inverse, it's the same thing. Once there's no more resistance to the inverse price movement, and it moves very quick when you hit that exhaustion point. And that's what happened right here. If we zoom in here on silver, that's what happened here. Let me do something. And I was talking about this. We did right here on the day, basically 2 days before the high, we hit that exhaustion valuation. It was 115 to extreme 125, but the 70% probability that this exhaustion period would happen between 115 and 120. We printed 121, and the rejection, it was a free fall. We all know that, right? And this was also kind of a we'll call it a meme trade, or and when this happens, so now we have potentially the inverse coming up at some stage. It looks like there's still downward pressure. I'm going to go right to Bitcoin after I explain this to you. But last night I talked about, I want to see something real quick here. This could be very, very, okay, it's not. All right. So this is going to be your also major pivot point, 111 on silver. So mark that down if you're a silver guy or gal. So yeah, so this is, but what's happening here, let's go to Bitcoin. Let's tie it together. So just, you got to think the opposite of what I just, all the characteristics are the opposite. So now we've got this vertical move down. We're kind of getting a flat here, but we're starting to see, just if we trade up, like I said, we could trade as high as 77 here. We're nowhere near that. We're printing 64, 68, 67 is probably the top end of this particular deal. The other thing that's here, let me show this to you. I'm going to blow this up because I can see we have a fair amount of new people here. So this over here is the what's called the market grid. So these are the projections or resistance points. R1, 64, 66, 68, extreme for between now and tomorrow night at 7. This is a 1-day range, is right now 70,000. Okay. So I'm going to do something for everybody. And I think this will be interesting. I'm just highlighting my data window. And what I'm going to bring over, and I'll talk about what's going on. A second. I've got a twirly wheel. Are you folks hearing me? I don't know. I think I'm frozen here. Yeah, I think my machine is frozen. If any of you are on Discord, give me a message and let me know what's going on. I'm just logging in Discord here. Okay. Yeah, I just got a spinning wheel here. Okay. Thanks. Yeah, sorry about that. I don't know, anybody else have any issues with TradingView lately? Because I've been having issues with TradingView. So can you guys see my cursor moving? See, I always tell when the universe doesn't want me to tell you some significant stuff, something like this will happen. Wow, 1.3 trillion. I see that comment up there. Okay, that's very, very interesting. I don't know. All right. I'm going to come up and talk to you, and I'm going to try to, it's not letting me. Yeah, this one monitor is just frozen. It won't let me move. I am actually buying, I just put an order in for a new Mac Studio with lots of memory because I've been having issues with this thing. Yeah, definitely Beach Ball of Doom. I'll see if I can work on another screen. If I can, I'll try to slide it over so at least you folks are seeing. But let me just talk a little bit about what I was just saying about this. So the patterns that are coming out of crypto, out of Bitcoin right now, yeah, it's making me crazy here, folks. Yeah, I'm getting it. I got the beach ball. Hang on. Yeah, the beach ball won't go away. Anybody have any remedies, any Mac folks around, how to get the beach ball to stop? Because I don't want to, man, this is, I will say this is classic of, a guy that used to work for him, we always say this is the universe trying to stop from communicating something that's going to help a lot of people. Remember to speak English. Yeah, I don't want to reboot. I know that. You know what? I just rebooted before we went live tonight. So I was hoping this, and it happens when I'm on TradingView. So I have no idea what's going on. Yeah, so I can't even go to charts here. I do have TradeStation up above, so I can get stuff. So let's not ruin what was a great thing. Let's try to just have a discussion. And I'm pretty sure the beach ball is not going to go away. It's funny because all the screens are live, everything. So let me just talk about some things that I'll use. I'm going to go up and open a page up here on TradeStation, so at least I can talk about this. All right, somebody just gave me a Texas Dave, save me. Yeah, that's what I was trying to do, but the beach ball won't let me go to the menu. Hang on. Yeah, hang on. I just got to the beach ball. Yeah, Google Chrome is not responding, so I'm going to force quit that. All right, so that worked. So give me 1 second here, and we should be able to get back on track. Sorry, folks. I'm so deep. I've been on Apple for 2 years. I'm so deep now. There's no going back once you go that way. I was at my brother's using his PC, and it was like all thumbs after being on a Mac for a couple of years. All right. All right, I think we're going to get back, folks. All right, we're coming back. All right, we're back. Just give me a thumbs up or something. Let me know. Yeah, so I'll answer a question to get back in here. So where the 11th to 13th changes. All right, folks, I have to do, it killed my Streamlabs too. So that, not my Streamlabs, my Stream Deck. So I don't have buttons here. So let's just, I'll get back in flow. Give me a second. I'm getting some stuff organized. So the 11th to 12th, all we're seeing is all these dips here in the indicators where I have my cursor right now. And those are, they're just a lot of them. But you can see here, this is silver is back on. Let's go back to Bitcoin. Bitcoin's got them right now. So after today, we got STX, we got a turn up in the algos, and you can see the shape. These dotted lines are the forward-looking or predictive math. So it tells you this, that, and this has been on the screen for days, that we were coming into an extreme low. And most likely all it's telling us is we're going to come into this 10-period moving average here, which is declining pretty sharply. And what's happening, while this looks like an outright buy, what it's telling us is that we're going to move, and you can see the red dots are forecasting the closing for the next several days, that it's going sideways into this resistance point. So it could have a little bit of upside. We got the market grid on the top up here is telling us that that's also an extreme. That's at 70,000 level that I talked about earlier. And that's going to come down each day. So we're likely to stay 68, 70, but we could break out easily with the volatility because of the extreme values that we have. And this is a parabola, meaning that it can reverse at any, make a major reversal at any moment, and we could be working that right now. And then we're going to have to work through 68,000, 70,000, and then probably get some type of what I call an echo retracement, where you'll get up to the margins, and then ultimately what you get to, you'll get right up to the resistance point, then you back up. You should not make a new low, and then the next leg should get the cup and handle that everybody knows, like a right shoulder, and then at that time, then you can penetrate through that 10-period moving average. But all the structure, let's talk about the structure in Bitcoin right now. The structure is this, is that you're at multiple levels. So I use a simple 10, 21, and 40-period moving average. That's what you see here. And some people have heard this back in the floor trading days. I had a buddy that was in over in the Microsoft pit, actually, from where I was at. And he'd always ask me if he would do not a 3, but you can see that when the market's going down, the shortest, mid, and longest term averages get into that kind of formation. It comes right out of where they all converge. And so this is a huge downtrend. Not that I'm telling you something you don't know, but what happens is you have layered resistance to work through this. And literally it's going to take, out into March and April to even get this to a point where we've traded off at each one of these resistance points and comes back and maybe builds a base. But from current levels where it is right now, this thing can turn completely south and print new lows again. So we're not out of the woods. This is a short-term chart daily. If we go, let's just do this. Well, I'm glad we were able to recover from that moment. So we put the weekly on. This is actually, I'm really glad I put this up here, because what we've got here, yeah, I'm really glad. Look at these downtrends, this angle of attack. These things are brutal. So each time we bump into there, until the momentum downward angle of attack bleeds off, it's got to get below this 0.25 level. And I'll show you where it is. Right. This is a weekly chart. So, but we also look at what we have under here. This is, I'm going to get a little, I'm going to call this a potential bottom right here. But look, check it out. You've got this. We've actually went through the lowest downward fib target. So what this indicator stack does, there's something that automatically recognizes the patterns and does Fibonacci targets. So you don't have to guess. It's programmed. It's very, very good, very accurate at this. So this, if you look up at the top here, these numbers up here were being projected from May of last year as a ceiling, and that number was that's target 1 was 134. So these big targets here were 134. We got to 126. And those were being projected back in May of 2020. 28. And even going back over here, when we got this run here back in June of 24, it was projecting for markets to go to about 113, and we went a little bit under that in this consolidation. Then we bounced off this rising 40 moving average. So right here where you see this low, you can see the indicators were projecting it, and the dotted lines at that time were telling us that there was going to be, that consolidation was going to be a low, and this green line here was the point that we were watching really close, which was 73, and we got to 76. So we came right into that range, and this is once again a weekly chart. Then we got new projections as this market got up here. But this is something else I want to point out to everybody. When I was talking on the thread on X, this is where, and I've been screaming, this is a distribution pattern for, going back into last year, that this is distribution. Typical after distribution, you get a rejection, and now we've rejected all the way back down to the 40, and we haven't been to the 40 since 23. So this is, and the 40, if I take this off, 40 is still weak. It looks like March or April, we got a shot at least building this base to stabilize, okay? This is a big number, this 200 week, which we got really close to, zooming back out again, becoming a Bitcoin, probably deserves this. So I'm still going to hit on these other markets. I'm going to go to S&P right after this. So, but we came really close to this 200 in the last couple hours, by the way, not 2 weeks ago, like right now. So this is going to be significant. Not that it could be retested. There's a lot of layers. So a lot of things I talk about when you do a multi-series. You look at the short term, like the daily. I know a lot of Bitcoin folks use a 4-hour chart, all that stuff. That is, that's okay, but it's very short term. That if you're a trader, that's going to work. For this weekly, this is going to be most likely, we're going to stay below this 10-week moving average, and you're looking at, let me just see where that comes in at. So that's 86, and it's going to come down by the week. So you're looking at, if you got back to 80, it's probably going to be 70, 75 is the rebound, and then we'll get a retest of this low. This low will have to be retested. You could call it right now and say this is the low, and maybe you get lucky, maybe you don't. From a true technical viewpoint, there's a whole lot of work that has to do to prove this. And then what we're seeing down here, though, when we go back to the indicators, you can see even they're telling you that there's a lot of work down here. You're looking at mid to late March before we're going to have any answers. But the longer term, like I said, we've got to work through multiple layers. So what just happened was I'm not telling you folks anything you don't know, it's complete destruction of the regime from the standpoint, because we went into parabolic, and now we have to get back into phase with the trending regime, which is down, not up, and then we've got to burn through that and do a ton of work. This could be a 6-month or longer deal, and there's still some probabilities because the numbers that are out there are pretty weak. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's come over to our I'm going to hit this button. So let me come off screen for a second here. I'm going to restore all these browsers. I said I was going to run Bitcoin, but everything let me just see what comes out of here. Yeah, not everything got, okay. So I'm just going to, we're going to come back here. So new folks, so pretty deep analysis on Bitcoin. Very strong chance that this print at 59 was the end, and then we'll see what we get out of next here. So we'll come back here. So this is one of the platform management platforms. So let's take a look and see what we're getting out of the numbers. So we're going to do abbreviated version of our normal podcast that a lot of you are here for. So let's take a look at the equity markets at the moment. We can see right now database at 4240. You know that this is the minimum level for us to stay in a short-term trend mode. So we're right on that area. Let's go over to the all stats. So this database has 14,227 symbols in the database. So we don't do trend lines here. This is analysis, and right now 6,032 symbols are long, and that represents 42.40. 42% is the minimum amount to hold a trend. You can see we had some pretty big selling. We had over 1,000 symbols yesterday. Today we got 1,800, almost 2,000. So we were at 45 plus yesterday in the percent bullish. So we're just seeing things come apart pretty good. And we did get technology got a sell as well. So now we have we'll have, I'm sorry, that's utilities came in. So we got technology as a sell, because I was looking at the number of sectors long or 9. I thought, what happened here? So utilities just came in as a buy. So we got a bit of a rotation on the sector. We went from tech being long to getting out. And as I mentioned in yesterday, we have 4 sectors. And if you read the Substack last night, the review of the database was telling you that we've got 4 sectors that are pretty close to long in the tooth, are about to exit. So the breadth on the equity markets is going to start to narrow on a short-term basis. Intermediate basis, we're still good shape. We're well over 60% on the longer term. All right, so let's go back and let's go over and fat fingering here. There we go. So we'll take a look. We didn't quite get an outside reversal bar. Oh, we're weekly. Let me get over daily real quick. Okay. So we're starting to get a potential. I mean, look at this. I was going to go, it looks just like Bitcoin because it is. Here we go. So we did get right at an STX buy. You can see the equity flow says we're going to recover probably in, maybe that's where we're coming into that 11th or 13th date, this window here. We're going to continue to base. We're getting a bit of a reversal right now. Actually, I've got a 1-minute chart and my 5-minute trading chart. I would have been long on this rally here. But it looks like from a day-to-day basis, we're going to get a bit of a rally up, and we shouldn't see any more attrition to the downside. There were 3 targets that I talked about last night, and we were going to expand the downside. And what the downside was telling us is that I mentioned these numbers, 68.21, 67.30, and we hit target 1, 67.85, so we're above target 2, and then on the overnight action we got down to 67.51. The target 2 was 67 30, 36. So that's probably the bottom here. So basically, if you looked at last night's sheet, I posted it on X, and it's in every night. Every night on the Substack newsletter, you get these data sheets, which I was going to run for you, but it's going to be too complicated. We're too deep into this. So I'm just going to cover, since we went deep on silver, and I'll bring up gold just to give it a shot, and then we'll be done. So we should be done about 10 minutes. So hang in there. So what this pattern is telling us, that we're pretty close to this bottom. Everything's going to try to roll up a little bit. The only thing that's happening down here at the bottom is the ppm 200, which is tracking each one of these indicators. Like this gives us the angle of attack for the 10-period moving average. The red is 21, the cyan is the 40, and the orange is on the 200. So what we're doing is tracking the angle of attack, and the only thing, matter of fact, the ppm1 is not in a trend. It is not in a trending mode on the downside. It's basically neutral, and that'll show on the sheet when you get it tonight on the Substack. So the 10 is, we're probably heading back towards the 10, 69, we'll call it 68, 70, 69, 20 range on the upside. That's probably where we're going to end up in the next couple of days. There will not be, obviously, a show tomorrow night, but so everything looks like it's trying to come in there. So Bitcoin probably printed an extreme bottom. The markets probably did the same. So everything's in recovery. Here's the NASDAQ, a little more sloppy, but we should go sideways to up here. You can see just a couple more days. Once again, where my cursor is here, that's the 11th. So everything keeps projecting out there, okay, to that 11th, 12th. This is a big window. All right. And what I'm going to do is I'll do gold real quick. I'll look and see what kind of questions they have. I'll do a few questions. We'll call it quit. See, now this is what I was talking about last night, that silver had a much more negative and weaker formation. It did make the new low off of, we're 44.23 low on the Friday, the big reversal pattern. And then we get a bounce. We were able to get just up to the 10. And if we look at the 10, it's in big time. It is in big time trend level down. So this is going to be your resistance. So I'm going to tell you, you're going to trade between the SMA 40, so the simple 40 average value, and you'll probably trade up toward the 10, which is 5,015. So you should stay probably under 5,020, and then you're looking at the value here at 46, probably 46.50, 35 on extreme downside. I think it looks like this is going to reverse, and you can see that the algo is suggesting that we're going to get a move down into, this is Thursday the 12th. So 11-12 again, everything's lining up that way. And we see this happen, and if you've been around the channel, you know this, but I love when lots of things cluster, telling you this, giving you the same answer. Then all you have to do is pay attention and do the right things when we get there. Okay, so I'll come back up on screen here. Let me look and see what kind of things are flowing around here. Yeah, so thanks for that, for the forced quit thing. The problem was when I was going to the Apple, it was still beach balling me and wouldn't let me click on it. I finally got it on another screen to stop. So anyway, when I hovered over the Apple for a while, it went. Uh, yeah, awesome, Iron Trader. I love it. I love it. Yeah, like Todd saying it's a given. Yeah, that was a good one. I missed it too. See what I sacrificed to hang out with you folks. Let's see here. Yeah, Amazon. Yeah, so let's just talk about something. I I think I think we're going to hold in. Bitcoin's living in its own world, and it should be. I do think that the derivative guys are really messing with things. I think somebody's after Michael Saylor so bad they want to. I used to use the term, and I've seen this happen when guys tap out on the floor, and we used to call it, getting carried out on a stretcher. It's when the clerk comes over to you and tells you you've got no more money. You need to liquidate. It's the liquidation tap on the shoulder, the one you never want. And I remember a guy back in the day, 1992, in the biotech boom. It was sort of like the .com, only not as big, but similar in that biotechs in 1991, 92 were like super hot. All you needed was a symbol, and it needed to be a biotech, and you could buy it, and it just went up. And this guy was looking at all the fundamentals and looking at the companies doing good work, and he realized these companies, most of them were never going to make money. It was just like, like the meme stocks in, 22 when they demolished those. A lot of those companies were never going to do anything good. And he was right. And I remember telling him, because one day he came upstairs off the floor, and I told him, I said, Brad, you're getting in their way. You don't understand. They don't care if they ever make money right now. Said later they will, and you will be right. But if you don't watch it, you're not going to be here to be right. And that's what happened. He just wouldn't listen to anybody. He was convinced. He'd come upstairs cussing, these things are POSs and they're never going to make money. And 100% right. He just all wrong. No one cared about that. It was like the .com. Like they kept bidding these companies, and no one cared about that. And that's why I always come up, ideology and conviction. The markets don't care about that. The whatever's driving the flow of buyers or sellers, sometimes could be that ideology, but in the end, the markets normalize and the math takes over, and a lot of times by the time the math takes over and you find out you're right, you don't have much left, or you can't stay. You can't stay in the game any longer, and that's a terrible place to find yourself. And I know a lot of people, been in a tough way here. Let me just see what else is out here. Yeah, that's funny. Thanks, Thomas. Appreciate that. Yeah, I don't know if that's true when I call for lower lows. I'm not calling for lower lows, actually. When did I say that? I said we need to see if we get lower lows. And I sure talked about it last night in silver and Bitcoin as well. So, yeah. But thanks. Thanks for coming. Um, yeah, I mean, listen, show the weekly and longer charts. They're all ugly. There's nothing good out there. I didn't see your comment earlier, but I did end up doing that. And yeah, the silver miners, maybe I could do that. I don't know if you're on the Substack. I could probably there's some issues going on there for sure. I'm sorry I didn't see that earlier. I would have covered it. Yeah, so right now, Atlanta Fed's Cruiser GT, 5.5 on GDP right now. GDP is not going to be 2.25. Who said that? Vanguard. Those guys don't know what they're doing. Listen, Vanguard's just a leech on society. Any of their economists, I don't know what they're doing, but yeah, you're going to see some crazy GDP numbers. But is it just because you get that? Remember, the markets are not the economy, right? So I appreciate everybody seemed to be pretty in line. I appreciate everybody come. If you were part of the craziness on X, I appreciate it. I think we're at 4 million views, and I'm thinking almost 7,000. Basically, I had 9,000. I was not trying to do. All I did was make a comment, and somebody said they didn't know why Bitcoin was going down, so I helped them out. So appreciate it. Obviously, a lot of people were spreading that thing. Last I looked, they were still retweeting, and it was still expanding. Let me look here, just a couple more notes, and we'll call it quits. That's true, because they switched, instead of having employment numbers tomorrow, they'll be next Wednesday. So that is part of that number. But everything looks like the PPMs and the algos are suggesting it will be good. Yeah, imagine paying them anything. Listen, the last comment, I'll address that. In my previous life, not that long ago, maybe almost 10 years ago, we had thousands of advisors as clients. And I basically started shutting that side of the business down. The only people hanging out with me now are people that want to be there, probably good friends. A lot of them have become good friends. They've been clients for 20 years or so. But yeah, but this is pretty much what most advisors are, what we call pie chart traders, and they just allocate out to, I would say, yeah, they probably have 4 different buckets that have 4 different categories in them, and they just change the mix. Most every advisor has 8 portfolios, moderate and aggressive, and they're the same. They just change the allocation numbers, and that's about it. Yeah, so yeah, I love. That's funny. That's funny, Floyd. Yeah, listen, I saw the funniest meme. I saved it on X on Tommy Lee. Is some guy had him on CNBC, but he came in and put a video over the top of the CNBC ad, so you can see Tom just behind there. He goes, "Listen, I get paid to say this crazy stuff, and as long as they're paying me, I'm going to say it's going up." So that's pretty much it. What the guy lost. Theoretically $6-8 billion, and people, I haven't had any kind of regard for that guy at all. If you look at the funds that they run, none of them are very good. So I've never been a fan of that dude anyway. And now, I mean, the stuff that I was just thinking. Sailor reminds me of somebody, that squeaky voice. I'm trying to remember. I thought of it earlier. I don't remember now, but yeah, very annoying. This thing comes up $3,000 more. You'll think you're in a bull market. You know, and I just talked about final comments. I talked about this the other night, is that nobody's screaming, you know, that Bitcoin's in a bear market. Some were quietly saying, but no one wanted to say those words out loud because everybody was so stuck in this thing. It's pretty sad. Yeah. So anyway, folks, thanks for being here. Subscribe, hit like button before you leave, and then I will see you next Monday afternoon is the next time I'll be live. Okay, so see you then. And now for the music that everybody, I'm going to get my new music out there. This is music I created. So enjoy. We'll talk to you soon.